Chapter 1. The Stranger in the Rain. She was down to her last can of soup, just one. And when she saw him standing in the rain outside her apartment building, soaking wet and barely breathing, something in her just broke. Because she recognized something in his eyes that most people miss. She recognized a kind of pain that money can't fix. What she didn't know was that the stranger she fed that night was someone powerful. Someone who didn't need her help. Someone whose family would never forget what she did. And someone whose mother had been waiting 300 years for a woman exactly like her. 3 months without steady work will humble you real fast. Victoria sat on her kitchen counter, swinging her legs like she was 7 again instead of 28, staring at the single can of minestrone soup sitting on the otherwise empty shelf. That was dinner for 2 days, maybe 3 if she stretched it. She had maybe $40 in her bank account, $40. The irony wasn't lost on her. She had a master's degree in environmental science, and she couldn't afford groceries. The job market had collapsed in her city 6 months ago when the research facility closed. Everyone scattered. Everyone except Victoria, who'd spent 2 months thinking the market would bounce back. It didn't. Now she was selling plasma, walking dogs on weekends, and eating beans she'd bought with coupons from 3 months ago. She heard the sound before she registered it. A car door slamming. Hard. Like someone angry. Or injured. Victoria pressed her face against the kitchen window. The parking lot was dark. Her landlord never fixed the lights, but she could make out a figure stumbling away from a black SUV. He moved like he was hurt, like every step cost him something. She should mind her own business. That's what her mother always said. Victoria, you care too much about people who don't care about you. And yet, she was already moving toward the door. The rain hit her face like ice water. Proper rain. The kind that soaked through everything within seconds. The figure was still there, maybe 30 feet away, now sitting on the curb with his head in his hands. He was huge. That was Victoria's first real observation once she got closer. Not fat, but tall and broad in a way that made her feel small. His clothes were expensive, even soaked through. Tailored black shirt, dark jeans that probably cost more than her car payment. But his face looked destroyed. Are you okay? Smooth, Victoria, real smooth. He looked up, and for just a second, she saw something flash across his expression. Something ancient, something that made her nervous system scream at her to run back inside. Then it was gone, just a tired man in the rain. I'm fine, he said. His voice was deep, rough, like he hadn't used it in a while. You're not fine. You're sitting in a parking lot in a thunderstorm. He almost smiled. Almost. Fair point. Victoria made a decision that would change everything. She just didn't know it yet. Come inside, you're going to get sick. He looked like he was about to refuse. Something flickered. Maybe pride, maybe wariness. But then he nodded and followed her. Her apartment was small. 1 bedroom, a kitchen you could turn around in, living room that was really just a hallway you could watch TV in. She'd been embarrassed by it once. Now she was mostly just grateful for the roof. She towel-dried his shoulders while he stood there looking at her place like he'd never seen a 1-bedroom apartment before. Probably hadn't. There was something about him that screamed money. Old money. The kind that built empires. What's your name? She asked. Marcus. She didn't question the hesitation before he said it. Instead, she said, I'm Victoria. You don't know me, he said. It wasn't a question. It was a warning. No, she agreed. I don't. I could hurt you. Victoria looked at this massive, broken man who'd just admitted he could hurt her, and she said, You won't. The way he looked at her in that moment, it was like she'd seen him. Really seen him. Not the danger, the need. She was heating up the minestrone when it hit her. This was it. This was her dinner for 3 days. She was watching it warm up in the pot, the smell filling her tiny kitchen, and she realized she was about to give it away. Her stomach clenched. Actually clenched. Marcus was in her living room, probably dripping water on her carpet, and she was about to give him her only food. This is stupid, Victoria. She made herself 2 bowls anyway. When she handed him his eyes went to the matching bowl in her hands, then back to her face. You're eating too. Obviously. You gave me half your food. She wasn't going to make it a thing. She was going to sit down and eat her soup and pretend she hadn't just handed over 1/3 of her remaining money to feed a stranger. You looked like you needed it more than I did, she said simply. He didn't eat, he just stared at his bowl for a long moment, and Victoria could see something breaking inside him. Not in a bad way, in the way things have to break sometimes to be healed. Why did you help me? His voice was barely above a whisper. Because, Victoria said, someone has to see you. Someone has to care. He closed his eyes. She watched him, this stranger in her apartment, and thought, I don't know what you are, but I know you're alone, and I know I couldn't let you stay that way. An hour later, while they sat in silence on her couch, he on one end, she on the other, both pretending not to notice how the air between them seemed to vibrate, it happened. Marcus's phone rang. He ignored it. It rang again, and again. Finally he looked at the screen, and everything about his posture changed. I have to take this, he said. She nodded, stood, started collecting the bowls. Where did you study? He asked suddenly. What? Your degree. I saw the diploma on your wall. Environmental science. Cornell? How did you? She ducked it away years ago, embarrassed by the wasted degree. Where? His voice was different now, less broken, more commanding. Cornell, she admitted. He nodded, like that answered a question she hadn't asked. Then his phone buzzed again, and his entire expression hardened. Whatever gentleness had existed in his face a moment ago, it vanished. I have to go, he said. As he walked toward the door, Victoria felt a strange pull, a literal pull in her chest, like an invisible cord connecting them was stretching too far. Wait, I don't. Thank you, he said, and he stopped at the door. In the moment before he left, she swore his eyes flashed amber. Actual amber. Glowing amber. Then he was gone, and she stood in her empty apartment, alone again, wondering if she'd imagined the whole thing. She hadn't imagined the $40 he'd left on her kitchen counter, though. She hadn't imagined that when he hugged her goodbye, she'd felt something inside her, recognized something inside him, like two halves of a lock finding their match. And she definitely hadn't imagined the warmth in her chest that didn't fade when he left. Because it was still there the next morning, and the morning after that, like he'd left a piece of himself behind. Chapter 2. The Alpha's Mother. 2 months passed. 2 months of thinking about a stranger with amber eyes. And then, without warning, she got a message. Not a text. A letter. Hand-delivered by someone in a suit who wouldn't tell her who it was from. The moment she read the first line, her entire life rewrote itself. The envelope was cream-colored. Old money cream. The kind of envelope that didn't exist in the regular world. Inside, written in handwriting that looked like it came from another century, was an invitation. Dear Miss Victoria, my son came home damaged 3 months ago. He would not say what had happened. He would not tell us who helped him. But something changed. I felt it. A mother knows when her child finds the missing piece. Then my daughter-in-law found your name, traced your apartment, ran your background. I need to meet you. Not for explanations. For answers. Come to Blackthorn Estate on Saturday at noon. Eleanor Blackthorn. Victoria read it 7 times. Blackthorn. She knew that name. Everyone knew that name. Old family. Stupid money. The kind of money that didn't just influence the world. It owned pieces of it. Did Marcus? She whispered his name even though she was alone. Is he? Of course he was. She'd known it. Some part of her had known it the moment he walked into her apartment, like royalty playing at being human. She almost threw the letter away. She almost burned it. Instead, she ironed her one good dress. The estate didn't look real. It was all black stone and ancient trees and grounds that stretched for what looked like miles. The driveway alone was longer than most roads, and standing at the entrance, like she'd been waiting, was an elderly woman in a tailored black dress. Except she wasn't elderly, not really. Victoria got closer and understood that this woman was somewhere between 30 and 300. Her face was smooth, her eyes were ancient, and when she smiled, Victoria caught a glimpse of something that made her breath stop. Sharp teeth. You came, Eleanor Blackthorn said. Yes, your invitation. Not the paper, child. You came because something in you knew, something in your blood remembered. Victoria had heard of crazy people before. She dated crazy people, but there was nothing crazy about Eleanor Blackthorn. She was absolutely, completely sane, which was worse. What are you? Victoria asked. We prefer what we are rather than what am I. It's plural in my case. Eleanor's smile widened. I've been alive for 347 years. My son is 183. My husband stopped counting at 200. Victoria should have run. She didn't. Marcus, Eleanor said, watching her carefully. Did he tell you what he is? He left before he could tell me anything. He didn't leave because he wanted to. Eleanor's expression softened. He left because the mating bond was activating, and he was terrified of what it would do to you. I'm sorry. Mating what? Come, Eleanor said, and she took Victoria's arm. Her skin was cold. Let me explain what you are. The library was insane. 3 stories of books, and Eleanor pulled her toward a specific shelf, like she'd memorized the exact location. Your mother, Eleanor began, was not entirely human. She carried the blood of the old ones. Your father was human, which is why you didn't manifest as a child. But you have the capacity, Victoria, the latent ability. The ability to what? To bond with one of us. Eleanor pulled out a leather-bound book that looked like it was held together by spite and luck. To be what you're meant to be. Which is? A soulmate. A true bond. When a paranormal being finds their matched pair, their other half, there's a recognition. A pulling. Your kind calls it soulmates. We call it the bond. Victoria's chest felt tight. The warmth that had lived there since Marcus left suddenly made sense. He felt it? He felt it the moment you handed him soup, Eleanor said softly. He felt it when you looked at him like he was human. Like he wasn't a monster. Do you understand what that means to someone like him? Someone whose entire world has told him his power is the only thing that matters? I don't understand any of this. You will. Eleanor opened the book, and Victoria saw her own face staring back at her. Not her, exactly, but close. A woman from a portrait dated 1874. This is your great-great-grandmother. She was like you. A hybrid. She mated with one of us. They had 200 years together. Humans don't usually live that long when they mate with our kind, but those with the blood, they can adapt. They can become something more. More? Victoria's voice was small. Stronger. Faster. Able to live alongside us. Able to, Eleanor paused, to love someone for more than a century. To make that actually mean something. Victoria sank into a chair. He won't come back, Eleanor continued, and now there was sadness in her voice. Not unless he knows you want him to. The mating bond only works if both halves consent. He's terrified he'll hurt you. That the power of it will break you. How do I tell him? Victoria whispered. Eleanor smiled, and this time it wasn't sharp at all. It was a mother's smile. That's why I brought you here. Eleanor led her to a room at the back of the mansion. It was a study, all dark wood and leather, and in the center of everything was Marcus. He looked worse than the first night, thinner, like he was burning himself from the inside out. The moment he saw her, he stood so fast his chair fell backward. His eyes flashed amber. Don't, he said. His voice was a warning and a plea. Whatever brought you here, it was a mistake. You need to leave. Your mother told me what I am, Victoria said. I don't care. You're human. I'm not. Not entirely. She watched him understand. Watched the moment he allowed himself to feel it, the bond, the recognition, the pull that she'd been feeling for 2 months finally being acknowledged. It doesn't matter, he said, and he sounded like he was trying to convince himself. You don't know what loving me costs. You don't understand what's going to happen to your body, your timeline, everything. Then tell me, Victoria said. She walked toward him, and with every step, the warmth in her chest grew. Tell me, and I'll decide. But don't decide for me. Don't leave me alone because you're afraid. She was close enough to touch him now. I'm terrified, he admitted. Me too, Victoria said. But I looked into your eyes when you needed someone, and I saw you. I'm not stopping seeing you now. When he kissed her, it tasted like coming home. Like copper and starlight and something ancient that had been waiting for her whole life. Eleanor, watching from the doorway, smiled. She'd been waiting for this for a very long time. They stayed in the library most of that day. Marcus explained what he was, an alpha werewolf, third in the pack hierarchy, and what the bond meant. Victoria asked questions. Hard questions. Questions about how long they had together, what would happen to her body, whether she had to give up her humanity. You become something new, Marcus said, holding her hand. Not human, not quite like us, something in between, something singular. How long do I have to decide? The bond is already forming, once it's complete, once we... He trailed off, embarrassed. Once we complete it, the changes start. You'll have maybe a week to make peace with it. After that, they're irreversible. Victoria thought about her empty apartment, her dead-end job search, her $40 bank account. Then she looked at this man, who'd come into her life soaking wet and broken, and she thought about the last 2 months, the way she'd felt tethered to him despite never seeing him, the way her heart had been waiting for something she didn't know how to name. I don't need a week, she said. 5 years later, Victoria sat in the office of her new environmental consulting firm, the one Eleanor had quietly funded, the one that was going to actually matter, and she didn't look human anymore. Not exactly. Her eyes had flecks of amber now, like always hidden fire. Her senses were sharper. She could smell rain coming from 10 miles away, could hear a heartbeat in another room, could feel the earth breathing beneath the city. Most importantly, she could feel Marcus, always, like a second heartbeat, like an anchor. He was in the room next to hers, on a conference call with his father about pack business. She could sense his frustration, his excitement, the hum of his power. Then he sensed her sensing him, and she felt him smile. Tonight, Eleanor had invited them both to Blackthorn for dinner. Apparently she was proud, and she had 400 years of not caring what anyone thought, so she was very loud about it. Victoria looked at the portrait that now hung in her office, the woman from 1874 who'd chosen this exact same path. "Did you regret it?" Victoria whispered. The portrait, of course, didn't answer, but somewhere in the blood they shared, Victoria thought she understood. Some choices are too important to be called regrets. Some choices are called destiny. And some choices, the ones that start with a can of soup and a stranger in the rain, they change everything.